of countries that are open loot, full loot PvP servers that you can do this in. But if you come to America, you come to a Western country, you take your citation and you say, "Thank you, officer." And if you can't do that, you gotta go. You gotta go. Yeah, shouldn't have flagged for PvP.
Chill out.
I'm not just call. Yes, call. I'm not touching.
Mom, please chill out. Mom, please chill out. Mom,
don't
please chill
touch
out.
me.
Mom, please shut up. Even her own son is tired of this bitch. Even her own son is like, "Oh my God, Mom, just like, please, please." Dude, the worst thing is the kid. Wow. Imagine your kid is more level-headed than you are.
I'm not stepping out of shit.
Please.
You're not a fucking supervisor. You're not the supervisor. Call your supervisor. A supervisor. I'm not stepping out of nothing.
Mom, chill out. Please chill out.
Has there ever been an instance where being violent, aggressive, and screaming at the police officer has caused the police officer to be like, "Oh, well, you know what? Never mind. You're not under arrest anymore. No, you're free to go. No, there's no more consequences for you. Yeah, no, you can keep going. No, it's fine. It's all right. No, you win. You win. It's over."
Get your hand off me. Get your hand off me.
I've never seen this happen.
I'm the supervisor. I'm not stepping out of nothing. Get your hand off me. Get your hand off me. Let you,
Felicia.
You dropped the ticket, not me.
It's about to be bye, Felicia.
Not me.
Uh-oh.
You dropped the ticket, not me. Get your hands off me. You're touching me. Give me the ticket. You're touching me forcibly. You're holding me too tight, and you're being out of line. Y'all see this, right?
Sir, I'm sorry. Can she just get the ticket?
No, you stop.
He's trying to talk for her. Bro, this guy's trying to translate. He's like, "Oh, sir, please, can you just, okay, here, just give me the ticket," something like that. You've got to do something. Oh my God.
Why are you holding my arm like this?
Because I gave you the
Why?
ticket.
No, you did not. You dropped the ticket, not me. I told you I did not want it. You dropped it. You dropped it. You're doing too much. I'm not afraid of you. Get your hand off of me. You're holding me forcibly for no reason.
Because you need to step out of the car.
Get your fucking hands off me.
Uh-oh.
No, what am I supposed to do?
Uh-oh. The never shut up. Yeah, you dropped the ticket. No, the thing is that, again, people that act this way, these are the kinds of people that... Never mind.
No, I did not.
Never mind.
He said,
You
"Take
threw
the
the
ticket
ticket at
with
me.
I gave it to you,
You
so you
threw
got
the ticket
and
at me.
then you grabbed it
Okay,
and threw it out.
give me the
It's
ticket.
on your phone video.
Give me the ticket.
No,
Give me the
we're
ticket.
past that.
Okay.
You're under
Right.
arrest. Step
For
out of the
what?
car. Literally.
Okay.
Yes.
Step out of the car.
No, I'm not.
You're under arrest.
No,
She's not going to do it.
When the colonel gets here,
I'm not going to do what the police say. No, this is it.
then I will step out. I'm not getting out of the car. I'm with my child, and I'm not doing
I
it.
think that it hit her. Even her son is just like, "Holy fuck, are you kidding me?"
Right now.
Step out of the car.
I'm not.
Step
I'm
out
not.
of the
I'll
car.
step out when another officer
I'll
gets
step
here.
out.
I'm not
Step
stepping out.
out.
I don't trust you. You're holding me too strong, and I don't
Because
trust you.
I don't
You
trust
don't have
you.
to
She
hold
about to
me
get
like-
dragged
I'm not
out.
touching you. What am I gonna
She
do?
thinks to
I'm
get
not
dragged
gonna do
out.
it. I'm not stepping out of the car.
Let's go.
Call your colonel, and I will get
Let's
out of
go.
the car. You're holding me. I'm not resisting arrest.
Oh.
I'm not- What am I under arrest for? What am I under arrest for? I didn't litter. You
Her
did that.
lawyer
No,
posted
I did
this?
not. You did that.
No
You
way.
did that. It's all on camera. So when your colonel gets here, then I will step out. I have my child with me. I'm not getting out of the.
Yeah.
You have a.
Her child with you? No, more like he's got his child with him. What are you talking about?
I am the
So when
supervisor.
your
What are you talking about?
supervisor gets here, then I will
I
step
am
out of the
the
car.
highest-ranking
Call
supervisor.
someone
You
else
crazy bitch.
to come
Anyone
here.
else?
There is someone else.
Not right now.
Yeah, there is
Yeah.
someone else.
You need
Let
to
me
step
call
out of the car.
911.
Stop.
Get your phone.
Wait, please, sir, stop. Wait, stop, sir, please stop. Wait, stop, please stop. Wait, stop, sir, please. Wait, please stop. Stop, please, I'm scared, stop. Wait, stop, please. Wait, stop, sir. Wait, stop, please.
All over a ticket, bro. Like, all over a ticket. Wow, it's hard wrangling. I know, bro. This is adult daycare. Literal adult daycare. She's stupid. I know. She's so fucking stupid. What a dumb fucking bitch, man. Oh my God, I love to see this. So deserved. I know. And so why is obeying the law so hard for these people? Because the reason why is that they are they don't have they're stupid. They're stupid. They got small brains, right? And so, like, they're dumb, and because of that, they're unable to conceptualize the idea of consequences, right? So, like, they do something that's, like, really bad. It puts them in a bad situation, and, like, they never understand, like, you know, how did I get in this situation? What is it that I did that put me in this situation? They never think like this. They never do at all. And yeah, they've been protected since Obama. I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, if it was in my in my perfect world, I'm gonna be honest, right? In my perfect world, this is the way it would always be. It would be the moment that bitch, like, I think they need to tase people more. I think they do, because, like, these officers might get hurt dealing with these animals. But I think just get like a cattle prod or something like that. The moment that, like, one of them starts crashing out, just bzz, shut the fuck up, bitch. Get the fuck out of here. Bzz, the fuck out of here. Yeah, don't tase me, bro. No, that's going to be the norm, right? And I think that's how it should be. We need cruel and unusual punishment back. Disrespecting a police officer is a good sign a cop will be harmed. Absolutely, man. I got a warning for driving insanely fast on the highway. The only thing I said was yes, sir. When he asked about doing military servant, watching my cam back, I said yes, sir, 14 times. Well, what I do usually is I just act like a normal person. Like, whenever I get pulled over, I don't say, am I under arrest? Am I under arrest? I'm not being detained, am I? I need to go, wait, listen, officer, there's something really important. I can't do this. No, wait, what do you, wait, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm a United States citizen. What's your badge number? Who's your commanding officer? I need to talk to him right now. I need to drive away, right? I don't feel safe right now. Oh my God, my chest hurts. Oh no. Like, before you start doing this, right? I just say, all right, what did I do? What's wrong? And I have gotten away with the craziest shit. I have. There was one time I was driving to school. I was in college. No registration, expired license plate, no insurance, no inspection. That's a bad combination. And the cop pulls me over because he runs my plates, and he's like, okay, and he's like, asked me for everything, and he's like, okay, well, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have any of these other things. And so then he's like, well, do you have a driver's license? I said, yes, I do. He's like surprised. He's like, oh, wow, okay. And he's like, well, you know, you're not supposed to drive this car. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Can you drive me to school? And he goes, just fucking fix it. Just fucking fix it. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna fix it. He's like, okay, great. And that was it. I never had to worry about it after that. Yep, never had to worry about it, never had to think about it at all. It's insane that people think white privilege still exists. Well, that's because people that think white privilege exists are the ones that are yelling and screaming and acting like fucking animals like her. That's the reason why. Is that somebody will hear that story and then think that it happened because I'm white. No, it happened because I wasn't rude, obnoxious, and stupid. That's the reason why. Just don't be violent and aggressive, and you're gonna probably have things be just fine. Comply with the police. There is a process to this. The process is you comply with the police, and if you think they did something wrong, you file a complaint or you sue them later on. You don't get to basically you don't get to have a sudden death trial the moment that you get arrested. Like, that's not how it works. You don't get to be your own lawyer. You know, your car isn't the courtroom. That's not how it works. Chris Rock, yeah, there it is. Yes, compliance privilege. Imagine that.
Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar. Big win today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna rip that band-aid right off and give you some good old hopium, give you the positivity, give you the really good news. Why did gamers win today? Well, about a week ago, I made a video. About 2 weeks ago, I talked about this thing called Miriant, where, again, one of the largest free, fast repositories of video game ROMs was actually being shut down March 31st, 2026. You might be like, whoa, hold on a second. Why is such a platform shutting down? Are they getting sued? Is Nintendo sending its lawyers after them? No, actually, Nintendo's currently busy with the United States government right now over tariffs. But actually, the reality of it is that this entire platform was being shut down simply because a lot of money wasn't there. For instance, the actual hoster of this said as traffic increased last year, the funding from donations remained the same, so more users, but the money never kept going up. So basically, he was paying $6,000 out of pocket every month in order to cover the difference, which really isn't that sustainable at all for one person in this case. The other thing was obviously scumbags with paywall download managers that would actually use Miriant as the backend, and they would make money off of people downloading at faster rates. Stuff that they could have gotten for free, but they were being billed and gouged by scummy third-party paywalled assholes. And of course, the last thing, but not the least, was the amount of AI bros that caused the RAM, SSDs, hard drive, basically every computer component to go through the roof, okay? Right now, for anybody that doesn't know, if you haven't built a computer, probably want to hold off for honestly a couple years, because a lot of consumer manufacturers are already going out of business. A lot of them don't even predict that this shortage will stop until at least for a couple years. Because of AI tech bros building data centers and buying basically every bit of RAM or computer component in the market right now, for anybody like us that wants to play video games, a lot of our shit has just jumped up in price. Building a computer, not really an economic feasibility for most people. Even buying a game console, which typically was the cheapest entry point, right? Like you pick up a console, you buy your one single player game, and probably was the cheapest way to get it. Even that is being threatened, okay? Thankfully, at least, last time we looked at the old Steam decks, apparently I heard these are actually back in stock. So if you were thinking of buying one of these, and I highly recommend you do, probably should go buy one, okay? But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it's a bad day, okay? We were about to lose one of the largest, easily accessible, fastest gaming repositories. So why is it a good day? Well, fast forward about a week fucking later, ladies and gentlemen, turns out the actual community built something known as Minerva, which I talked about, a couple days when I actually discussed this original topic. And it actually has been doing so well that according to the game preservation teams behind it, they've managed to preserve basically 100% of this project. So on the Minerva site right over here, you can actually check out these files for yourself. But interestingly enough, I want to actually show you the statistics. Now, I've seen a vibe-coded website, any day of the week, and I'll tell you right now, there's definitely a fair bit of, I would imagine, Claude used in this situation, so it's interesting. The AI bros are causing us to lose our shit, but we'll still use some of the AI technology to build the archives, which I think is the most ethical use of this crap to begin with. But basically, these guys got a bunch of archives from Hetzner and LeaseWeb Canada, and a lot of these archives contain basically 100%, if not 90%, and the rest is being slowly uploaded as we speak. And basically, they preserved effectively every single file that would have been lost. Now, the thing about it is, a lot of these files would already have been available on things like the Internet Archive and various other resources. But remember, when it comes to game preservation or preservation of anything, if you don't want things to be lost media, backups and then backups of the backups are basically as important as you can come. So anybody that's saying that, oh, you're just duplicating files, you don't really understand, right? The more of these repositories existing, the better it actually is. Now, from what I understand, basically to download this stuff, you have to use torrent software. I'm not going to explain how to do that because of YouTube's terms of services, though I find it fucked up that for AI companies that are training on user data, allegedly, they're able to get away with vast amounts of piracy, and I'm supposed to be scared shitless when like an agent kicks my door down because I left a ROM sitting on my computer longer than 24 hours. Now, if it wasn't because I left the ROM sitting on my computer longer than 24 hours. Now, if it wasn't for things like Miriant, there was obviously the Internet Archive, and of course, obviously places like Vim's Lair, which unfortunately has also been under attack too for a lot of older Game Boy Advance games, specifically, obviously, whatever Nintendo is distributing, like Pokemon Emerald, for instance. Downloading through Vim's Lair would actually have been impossible. For instance, if you actually look up Pokemon on here, you can see that a lot of titles that used to once exist don't actually exist on some of these archives because lawyers do get involved. Now, of course, obviously, in cases like Vim's Lair back in 2024, they were asked by the ESA on behalf of Nintendo, Sega, Lego, and basically a bunch of these companies to remove games, especially, games that weren't even sold for decades. And I brought up Pokemon Emerald because Nintendo's huge. They can obviously sell Pokemon Emerald again. They're doing it with Fire Red and Leaf Green, but they just choose not to. And, if the company isn't officially selling a video game, you then have to go to a third-party market, and usually those guys price gouge the fuck out of these old Pokemon games. So for somebody that just wants to play an older game, it's more economically feasible, and honestly, it's probably morally ethical considering the original developers, Nintendo, they don't even get a cut of your actual revenue that you would spend being price gouged on places like eBay. I get that the retro gaming market doesn't like what I have to say, but to be honest with you, you guys can spread cheeks, and that's pretty much it. I like playing video games, and I think for gamers, having things like Miriant basically survive itself is pretty good to see. Now, ultimately, at the end, I'm a little bit worried for the person that runs this. There's been such a mass amount of downloads from the Miriant database that I can only imagine that final hosting bill is probably going to be through the fucking roof. And I really hope that the gamers who try to preserve this archive didn't necessarily bankrupt this person in the process. But again, I believe that even the individual behind it expected this, since they basically gave you a date to download whatever you wanted, and gamers basically preserved the entire fucking archive. I think for me too, it's like anytime I get to talk about these kind of stories, I like to bring up sort of like actual like real world examples of why this stuff sort of matters to me, right? I feel like for gamers, emulating is one of those things where people always conflate it with things like piracy. And I get it, piracy is really bad and evil. But at the end of the day, I like to look at these things without a situation of it being totally black or white. A lot of cases for me involving like downloading games from 10, 15 years ago, I cannot honestly see the actual harm being done to the developers or even the publishers in that case. I actually think in that case, even the developers don't really care. For instance, one game that I actually do like playing is back in my PlayStation 3 era, was a game known as Killzone 2. Now this, at the time, I thought graphics couldn't get better, and generally it's just your standard slop warfare shooter at the time. It's basically Sony's response in a way to like the Halo of the time. Now, generally, I think Killzone 2 is one of my favorite games, and I do actually end up going back to it from time to time, whether it is to play the multiplayer, which you can thankfully play again, because the game thought of bots. This isn't the modern gaming era where once a multiplayer game dies, you can't necessarily re-experience it again. But when it came to the single-player experience, firing it up in an emulator known as RPCS3 is honestly the only real option that's really left. Sure, you could go and pick up an old-school PlayStation 3, but some of those aren't really being sold anymore, and even if they are, a lot of these pieces of hardware aren't in the best possible condition anymore. Usually you're spending hundreds of dollars on something that probably is close to a yellow light of death or some other component failing. But with emulators like RPCS3, downloading one file and running one package through it is all you basically need to get your retro gaming journey started. Yes, we are so old at this point that if you grew up with an Xbox 360 or a PlayStation 3, you have fucking back problems, okay? You are old. Deal with it, motherfucker. Now, when I want to buy things like Killzone 2, I can't just go to the PlayStation Store and buy it, because it's not even available on the current systems. You can't even emulate the fucking game, or you can't even stream the game through the cloud. All of those functionalities are basically gone. In fact, even 4 years ago, I dug up this thread where like a whole bunch of PlayStation actual exclusive games got removed. Now, some of these might have been re-released, some of them might have been brought back, but for a vast majority of people, reliving your childhood memories is becoming fucking impossible. And that's not a world that I actually really enjoy, and I don't think anybody actually does. Which is why things like Miriant and Minerva actually existing, and Minerva basically preserving a lot of these games from the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, Nintendo era of gaming consoles is so important in today's day and age. There's a lot of people that will probably play games like Bloodborne, and even though that game isn't old, it is getting up there in age. And for a lot of people in the future that want to play what they consider one of the best, PlayStation era or PlayStation 4 like Souls games, one of the best games from Software, it's not like they're going to re-release the game on PC anytime soon. But that emulator Shat PS4? Well, literally, I was replaying the game again, and this is very much close to the beginning. I just beat the Cleric Beast, but you can see that the game does function with most of its graphics now. It runs at around 60 frames per second if you've got the hardware for it, and while there are graphical issues, I don't want to shy away and not show you goofy things. It does exist. It's very easy to rectify and fix up and basically play the game all the way from the beginning to the end with the DLC included. And it's one of those things where it's like, I remember when I made my first Bloodborne running on PC video like years ago, and I showed you the game barely worked, okay? It was running at 1 or 2 frames. But thankfully, the emulator community in this case, at least for Shat PS4, has been kicking so much ass. And honestly, most emulator communities right now are kicking a lot of ass in their own ways, where preserving and playing some of these games is actually there. But of course, this comes with a little bit of a weird downside too. As you can imagine, games like Bloodborne are in their 20, 30 gig file sizes, so now preserving PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 games now, or Xbox 360 games, where now you're looking at the gigabytes, the amount of storage required to preserve these things has also astronomically fucking jumped. But it's something we need to do because honestly, game preservation is so important in today's day and age. When re-releases aren't cutting it enough, there's a lot of times games get re-released where content gets removed, sometimes it gets censored, sometimes it gets entire game modes chopped off because game companies don't want to go through the effort of re-releasing the game properly. They want to charge you the full $60, they don't want to give you the whole full $60 worth of content. But thankfully, the gamers will always exist to preserve this kind of shit. Even back in the days of the 360, look, there's so many games like Mirror's Edge that I grew up with where, back in the day when an EA game dropped, you were like, all right, this is gonna bang. Now when EA drops a game, it's nothing but a whimper and a wet fucking fart. But back in the day, there were seriously actually good experimental AAA games that came out. Games like Mirror's Edge, which I absolutely enjoy. Games that, come from a time and era where I think gaming almost peaked itself. And then, of course, we're living in this era where every game company sort of hyper monetized itself. Even a game that I'm enjoying like Marathon recently is a game that I can't help but think if it came out 10 years ago or 15 years ago, Bungie would have released it with a campaign mode, arena multiplayer, and even some level of like map editor for crying out loud. But that's just kind of the world we live in, where gaming, in my opinion, is sort of like stagnated a little bit. There are good games that come out, but generally speaking, maybe it's just me aging a little bit, but I do love that era of PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and it feels like that era of gaming is kind of what I'm dying to re-experience. And thankfully, because of emulation, because of people preserving these games, I and people who come 10 years down the road, new gamers, will actually get to experience this shit over and over and over again. So honestly, guys, big day, big win for gamers. The AI bros are doing shit that ruins the world every day. I saw the other day, NVIDIA's CEO was like, guys, there's going to be an age of abundance. With AI, nobody's going to have to work again. Honestly, this load of bullshit is something that I see every tech bro passing. But, every day you look around you, the world seems to be getting a little bit shittier. But at least today I can proudly at least say for gaming, for the gamers, for the people that love to spend a good Friday night cracking up a nice single player game and playing it from whatever era, finally have more preservation. And there can never be enough. So remember, there's a good way for you to throw bucks to these people, support them financially, because Lord knows they actually need it. And you know what? I think I've never given anybody a homework assignment, but if I was a goddamn teacher, I'd just tell you guys, listen, pick an old retro console, something from the old PlayStation 2 era, find yourself a nice single-player game, fire it up on an emulator, hell, buy it if you can, officially, and just actually experience a game from one of gaming's golden eras. That said, ladies and gentlemen, I am out.
This is a very big thing that we're doing. It's about fraud, having to do with all the fraud that's taking place in our country. And we have people that are extremely brilliant and just very talented, and they're going to be put in charge. But I'd like to ask Will, if you would, to give a little description of what we're signing.
They're going after fraud? Yeah.
Then I'll ask JD to speak.
Finally.
Yes, sir. As you stated in your State of the Union address, in light of widespread revelations of fraud in federally funded programs in states like Minnesota and California, this executive order in front of you will establish a new task force aimed at rooting out that fraud, returning potentially billions or tens of billions or even hundreds of billions of dollars to the American taxpayer. This task force will be chaired by the Vice President. The Vice Chairman will be the head of the FTC, Andrew Ferguson, who's with us here as well today. But this is going to launch a whole-of-government approach to rooting out the very serious problem of fraud in federally funded programs around the country.
Great. Did Vance
As
lose
an
weight?
example, you know,
I feel like you lost weight.
And seeing it pretty big in Minnesota, $19
Maybe I've just seen him in memes too much.
But that's only for one little aspect of the fraud. It's $19 billion, and California, as they say, is 10 times worse, and other states
probably
are
more than that.
This is not a Republican-Democrat thing. This is wherever it's taking place.
Yeah, of course.
It seems that it's
obviously
usually in blue states. If it's in a red state, we're going there too. But it seems that it's heavily, heavily, heavily Democrat. And what they've done is so sad. When you look at the Minnesota scam, a lot of it has to do with Somalia. Nobody's calling out anybody, but a lot of it has to do, but it's Somalia and plenty of others. And I believe the governor is complicit. I believe Ilhan Omar is complicit. I believe that your Attorney General is complicit. And if they are, you're going to hopefully find out about it, and you're going to have to do what you have to do. If we found half of the fraud that's taking place in this country, and I think you have a chance of doing that, we would have much more than a balanced budget. That's the kind of numbers you're talking about. The theft is incredible. And I think JD will make, and Andrew will make a charge later on that local states should handle nursing homes and all of these things that the federal government shouldn't be involved in. It's too big. The federal government should handle military and a couple of other things. But when it comes to nursing homes, you saw where a young gentleman was going around and knocking on doors, and none of the nursing homes existed, none of the nurseries existed. The money that's being paid out, and the federal government pays for it. When you see all these people coming in illegally into our country, many criminals, many drug dealers, murderers, 11,888 murders, and you look at California, and more come in.
Nick, on what he does.
Money, and yet they pay him. You know why they pay him? Because the federal government is charged with paying. We're not paying them anymore, and I said that.
Young gentleman.
So these two really smart guys are going to be, I think it's going to, hopefully it's going to be JD's. This will not be like a Kamala where she was put in charge of the border and she never went there, JD, right? You promise?
I promise, sir.
Remember, Kamala was put in charge. She was the border czar. She never went to the border. She never called any of the great border patrol. The border patrol testified. We never spoke to her in 4 years. And that was a disaster.
I like how he just says Kamala. People start laughing.
I think maybe before JD, I'll ask Stephen Miller to say a few words. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, under President Trump's leadership, as we've seen, the illegal flow across the southern border was stopped completely. But what we found since President Trump came into office is that the Democrats have set up a system to funnel hundreds of billions and ultimately trillions of dollars to migrants that are in our country, oftentimes from places like Somalia. So as an example, ICE recently asked a group of illegal immigrants that were in detention whether or not they were receiving Medicaid. Half of them raised their hands and volunteered that they were on Medicaid. Just volunteered that. These aren't the ones who are hiding it, right? They also asked illegal aliens how they paid their medical bills, and they said that if they don't have Medicaid, they go to hospitals, they get free care there, and they bill it to the taxpayers. So they aren't paying for any of their own health. hospitals, they get free care there, and they bill it to the taxpayers. So they aren't paying for any of their own health care in this country. This is one example. And we've seen this over and over and over again. So under President Trump's leadership, and then of course with JD and the head of the FTC, Andrew Ferguson, we're going to see the first ever effort in American history to reclaim the ultimately trillions of dollars that were stolen from taxpayers. I believe, and I know President Trump believes, that when this theft is exposed, we will see that if all of it were stopped, it would be enough to balance the budget. The extraction of wealth from American taxpayers to people who don't belong here is the primary cause of the national debt, and this is the first ever effort to shut that down. Thank you, Mr. President.
First ever. And everyone knows they've been cheating for years. It's the first ever.
There he is, right there.
And it's got to be stopped.
Holy shit. Finally saying it?
Think of it, Somalia is a third world, maybe a fourth world nation. One of the worst, one of the most dangerous. They don't have anything.
Did he call it a fourth world?
Councils, they don't have government, they don't have police. They shoot each other all over the place. They come here and they steal $19 billion. It's crazy. And Ilhan Omar, I hope this is part of it, but she married her brother, supposedly. I mean, there's a lot of documentation. That means she's here illegally, and she's come here and they steal $19 billion. It's crazy. And Ilhan Omar, I hope this is part of it, but she married her brother, supposedly. I mean, there's a lot of documentation. That means she's here illegally, and she's a congresswoman.
Get her out, bro!
And I hope you're going to be looking at that, or somebody
Get the bitch out!
Right? Because she's one of the ringleaders here. She's
fourth
bad
world
news,
country.
Bad news. She's so bad for our country. Anyway, JD, please say a few words.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, Mr. President. This is a very important whole of government approach to tackle the fraud problem. And let me just tell one story. One of the things that even before this executive order was signed that we were able to stop under the president's leadership is we saw evidence that in Minneapolis there were Somalis, primarily illegal immigrants, who were defrauding a Medicaid program that was meant to go to autistic children. So they were taking children who were supposed to get benefits, and they were claiming that their kids were actually autistic even though they weren't. And what did this mean? This meant two things. Number one, you had a lot of people getting rich off of the fraud while American citizens got poor. And the second thing that it meant is that you had autistic kids in Minneapolis, in suburban Minneapolis, who weren't getting benefits they needed because Somali fraudsters were literally stealing out of their pocket. It's got to stop. And unfortunately, that kind of fraud is one example of probably hundreds just within the state of Minneapolis, and then it's repeated and replayed all over the United States of America. When we first started talking about this problem, the president made it very clear he wanted us to take the fraud problem seriously because nobody had until he was president. We started to figure out one big hole that existed is that the agencies of the government weren't actually talking to each other. So Treasury would have evidence of financial fraud, but wasn't talking to the Department of Justice about it. Health and Human Services had evidence of Medicaid fraud, but wasn't talking to the Department of Treasury about it. So what this executive order does is force the entire apparatus of the federal government to do two things. Stop the fraud in the American taxpayer and make sure that the benefits that ought by right go to American citizens go to American citizens and not to fraudsters. Andrew Ferguson will be the vice chair and is going to do a great job. If you're curious what's the difference between the vice chair and the vice chair is going to do all the work, and I'm going to take all the credit. Andrew.
Yeah, look, I mean, millions and millions of Americans pay into these programs every day, and they expect to get something out of it. And this fraud is just siphoning money that millions of Americans pay to fund their hospitals, to fund their daycare centers, into completely fake businesses. It isn't just unfair to all of us as taxpayers who pay for all this.
What's his
name? It's particularly unfair to the Americans who need this the most and watch this money leave their hospital, leave their school system, and go out to fraud. And that is why this effort is so important. And I think we've just begun really looking at this, but I think that one of the things we're going to find is that in a lot of these agencies, the previous administration was pretty lax about existing anti-fraud controls, and we're going to expose that too.
Yeah, true.
I would take the word pretty out. I would change it with unbelievably lax. They weren't not even lax.
Let me know. He has Twitter. I'll DM him.
The previous administration was fraudulent.
You got to get these roaches, bro.
And I think that's what you're going to find also. And you know, we worked so hard, like most favored nations drug prices for years.
I know I've already covered a case similar to this, but this one's even more egregious. A 50-year-old grandmother spent 6 months in the slammer doing hard time because AI tools flagged her as a suspect in a bank fraud case. But it turns out the only fraud here was Jarvis going rogue and for some reason targeting Angela Lips. She spent 6 months behind bars for this. Police in North Dakota, using AI facial recognition technology that they must have found on fucking Temu, flagged her as a suspect in a bank fraud case in North Dakota. Now, Angela Lips is a mother of 3, grandmother of 5, and has lived her entire life in north central Tennessee, roughly 1,000 miles away from where the crimes she was accused of committing took place. And yet still, U.S. Marshals showed up at her doorstep last July while babysitting 4 kids and arrested her at gunpoint. The lore goes as follows. There was a woman in North Dakota that was using a fake U.S. Army ID to withdraw tens of thousands of dollars, and then Fargo police were investigating. They ran the surveillance footage through facial recognition software, and it returned a match to Angela Lips. And then, hallelujah, Flesh and Blood came in, but unfortunately he was missing a brain. A detective compared Angela Lips, that was flagged by the facial recognition software, to her Tennessee driver's license and social media images, and concluded she was the perpetrator based on facial features, body type, and hair. Nobody from the department contacted Lips before U.S. Marshals arrested her at gunpoint on July 14th while babysitting those 4 kids. I already know exactly how that detective's thorough analysis went, because we'd actually already seen this before in the last case I covered of AI incorrectly identifying a suspect and leading to an innocent person being arrested. In that last incident, what happened is the authorities were comparing, AI had flagged somebody, and they were comparing driver's license to the picture, and he just basically said, well, alright, if AI says so. There is this blind trust in AI from authorities like this to just do their job for them. So I feel pretty confident that this detective most likely just did the exact same thing, like, alright, AI said it, and AI's never wrong. She's definitely guilty. Let's, sick the Pinkertons on her. Let's get the U.S. Marshals. We'll rappel down. We'll blast through the windows. Maybe let's just tear gas that bitch. Let's go hog wild. We already know she's guilty. AI's flagged her. I imagine that's exactly how that went. It is incomprehensible that they acted solely off of AI saying that this is probably that person in the video. They didn't contact her, they didn't question her, they did no actual investigation of this woman before swooping in with the U.S. Marshals holding her at gunpoint in front of the children that she was babysitting. And then it only gets worse from there, because she sat in jail for 108 agonizing days before North Dakota officers collected her, and her attorney, Jay Greenwood, immediately requested her bank records, and Fargo police finally met with Greenwood and Angela on December 19th, 5 months after her arrest, and records showed that she was buying cigarettes and depositing Social Security checks in Tennessee at the time police placed her in Fargo. So she literally could not be the suspect guilty of bank fraud in North Dakota. And they didn't bother to do any investigation or anything at all, clearly, and she had to sit there and stew, marinating in jail for 100.
When I go on vacation and
if you put a pear in the freezer,
if I put a pear in my freezer,
let it thaw out,
it's starting to get really squishy.
Repeat it several times,
and each time we do it, the color changes. You see, freezer, you're not dealing with the average pear anymore.
I'll get this soft, squishy pear that I can suck the juice out of.
Why are we doing this?
This is actually a common snack in northeastern China, since it's what happens to pears naturally when it's left outside during the winter.
I see, so it's like an ancient preservation method, but we have refrigerators now. But I'm gonna peel it to suck on the opening of traditional wisdom. Warning to cover your ears. You know what it tastes like? It tastes like a really well-made caramel sauce. They even added vanilla extract too. Definitely not my preferred way of consuming pear. I'm only doing this and enjoying the process because I'm currently unemployed. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Alright, thank you.
If you put a pear in the freezer,
if I put a pear in my freezer,
let it thaw out,
it's starting
So when I'm in New York, one of my absolute favorite things to eat is the perfect bacon, egg, and cheese.
So this hack involves turning rice paper into bacon, egg, and cheese, and it's fairly simple. So we dip 3 pieces of rice paper into eggs, scramble the remainder, put on top with some bacon and mozzarella, roll it up into a loose burrito, and then swirl it into a rasengan. Season with everything. Seasoning everything I have in the house is salt and pepper. And we'll bake it at 400 for 20 minutes, and let's see if this bacon, egg, and cheese is cool or not. Cross section looking pretty good, but why does it have a greenish hue in the middle?
Into a beautiful location, sometimes a thought pops in my head. Should I move here? Well, I'm a guide from Prague, Czech Republic, heavily visited tourist destination, and let me try to answer that question for you by looking at offers for real estate here in downtown Prague. This street connects the most visited tourist destination number 1 with the most visited tourist destination number 2. And there are all civic amenities and excellent transport accessibility. All civic amenities? By that you mean fake weed shop, beer museum, oh, another weed shop, an exchange office that will rip you off? Or you mean probably the sweet turtloaf touristy thing? There's 2 of them, 3 of them. Let's put that to a test. Would you want to live in downtown Prague? 20 euros. Must be a paper shop because they got pencils here. Do you think they have a toilet paper? Let's try. I mean, it's a mini market. Excuse me, do you have bread? No. And do you have toilet paper? No. Okay, thank you very much. No. Might like Bobby It's pricey to take a dump in the old town of Prague. Can I buy that Putin? Oh, this one. Oh, wow. Do you also sell other dictators? Oh, inside it's Yeltsin.
And inside it's another one, it's Gorbachev.
Gorbachev inside. Yeah. Oh, so it goes
Stalin.
like, and Stalin.
Yeah.
Stalin. So you do have more mass murderers. He's next to Lionel Messi, it makes all the sense. Well, you only have this symbol?
Only this.
Only this.
Yeah.
So where are you from?
Originally from Tunisia.
Tunisia? Get out of here, really? And you sell this here?
Business.
In Czech, there's a word for it. Kšeft svatý. You know how you have that little vomit and then you have to swallow it? Just happened to me, man. Local living here, need to get cash? Imagine this one's broken. What do? You just walk around the corner. Do you have ATM on every corner in your neighborhood? I don't think so. The fact that it charges 18% commission for withdrawal? Who cares about that? Now, just to be clear, if you're going to be looking for this apartment, for this listing, it says it's the house by the golden pair. Well, that's actually the old signage. Today we go by the new one. This is by the High Koala. It's the new name of the house. Now let's get real for a second. Like when I wake up, I want a place to have breakfast. So if there's a breakfast place just across my new apartment, well, I'm going. And here they have the old Bohemian breakfast. I've seen that on one of the YouTube videos. Like that's traditional, right? This I would consider what the listing says, which is all civic amenities. If that includes a tourist trap, then yes. Now this 80 square meter apartment is over 800,000 euros, and it is pricey. If you look at a map of prices of apartments in our country, Prague is the most expensive, and the center of Prague, more specifically this location we're in, is bright red. I mean, property is expensive here. But would you want to live here? Would the 2 of us want to live here? What makes a property expensive? Isn't it the fact that you got things nearby that you can walk out the door and there's a place where you can have a dinner and breakfast and buy toilet paper? Because those things are missing here. And I mean, whoever's selling it kind of knows it, because in the very first column, they're saying this is an ideal investment for short-term vacation rentals. I don't think they're intending or thinking this apartment would be bought by someone who would actually want to live here. And cherry on top of this real estate cake, in case of this apartment was awarded an award by the City Hall for the best reconstruction, which is kind of funny. You did a great job reconstructing the place for all the Airbnb tourists. We moved next to the John Lennon Wall, and you can move here too, into an apartment that offers beautiful views of the Church of Our Lady and the picturesque square. It is therefore the ideal choice for clients seeking extraordinary. Like a view of a church and a square, that's something extra for your clients. Well, I have something extra for our clients, and that's the sponsor of today's episode, which happens to be Saily, an app you download into your phone, and wherever you want to move or travel around the world, you get a local eSIM card so you can avoid those ridiculous roaming charges. Now, the listing for this apartment does not have a discount, but I can give you a discount for Saily. If you use the code HONESTGUIDE or simply click the link below the video, you can get the service with 15% discount. When me and Honza travel, we get the eSIM before we leave our country, so when we land at a destination, our phone is already ready to use, so we can look up real estate wherever we just landed, because we always look up at the buildings and we say, should we move here? Yeah, but before we move here, let's get the eSIM. Thank you, Saily, for sponsoring us. Once again, the link is below the video, and we continue. We sat down to read through more of the listings of places where you can live, and I find it ironical that the first line in most of these listings is a place right next to the Charles Bridge, which for a visitor makes sense, but for a local it's like, wait, but I don't want to go to a place that looks like this on the weekends and like this during Christmas time. The things I need on a daily basis are a bakery or a toilet paper. I found a cheaper apartment on the street where we were filming just minutes ago for 15 million crowns, which is this in euros, but I still can't wrap my head around how the listing is written, because it says right here, it is in the heart of town with coffee places, restaurants, galleries, small stores. Where is a supermarket nearby this place? Believe it or not, it's actually technically in a different part of Prague. It's in the new town, and it's still hidden underground. Now, I just noticed there is one thing that all these apartments in the city center have in common. When you look at the real estate page, it shows you what's the distance to the nearest tram stop, to the nearest kids' playground. Which is the one thing they all have in common that is the closest to every single one of them? What do you think it is, Honza? ATM. Your own at ATM, man. I mean, all of them. Now again, this makes it a place where you want to live, especially considering it's a city where you do not need cash. So from a local's perspective, this listing is written as an Airbnb or booking listing, not as a listing for someone to live there, because it says close proximity to Charles Bridge, Old Town Square, the Lesser Town, Prague Castle, they're just steps away. Well, I as a local want other things steps away. And it's fair to say that if you scroll further in the listing, it says ideal to rent to tourists. I mean, not ideal. That's the only intention of this place. Now, let's move away from the city center to a place in Prague where locals live and where they enjoy to live and where we would like to live, because there are places just around the corner or right in your house that you need on a daily basis. And there are cheaper places to stay than we showed you just now. I mean, just this listing. Let me read it to you. I mean, it's a one-bedroom apartment, but with a small, cozy kitchen, as it says right here. And it is only 270 euros per month. I mean, it's a bargain. Do you want to see the pictures? Okay, so this is the bedroom. For 270 euros, you get one bed in that bedroom with 4 other people. This is the cozy kitchen, and this is a hallway. Apparently with a stove, because the kitchen is so cozy, it doesn't fit in the kitchen. Should I move there? No. No, just no. So since we're not going there, let's stay in the city center and check out a place just around the corner. We're in the most beautiful town of Prague, Lesser Town, and the street here is just marvelous. and you can live here for less than 2,000 euros in an apartment with a beautiful shared terrace. But let's again read the listing. As it says, great accessibility and everything nearby. Well, again, under everything, you gotta imagine a wheat store or a Trdelnik store or an overpriced mini market. But what about if you have a family? I mean, this is a 3-bedroom apartment, so maybe you're gonna live with kids and you wanna do some grocery shopping. Well, the nearest place is more than a mile away. And that mile, you have to walk to a tram stop and then take the tram and then back. I mean, it's not like it's difficult, but is it really nearby? And there's no public transport up this hill, so you're gonna carry all the bags up. And you can drive here, but it's a one-way street, so then you would have to circle the entire city to get back. So it could get a bit tricky. But on the other hand, there is a world-famous local pub that serves beer the way all locals love it. I'm kidding, of course. Damn, wheat shop and it's closed? Oh, there's another one. Now let's be fair to the listings. There are coffee places on the streets, and I'm sure some of them are good. But what Hansa just pointed out, they open at 11. Like where we live, coffee places open in the morning because that's when people get up and they need coffee. So when you wake up and go to work, these places will be closed. Now, let's talk about the prices a little more because as you can see, they're quite steep. So one would think everyone wants to live here in the city center of Prague, but it's not everyone. It's only the visitors, the tourists. Because, and I vividly remember not too long ago, 5 years ago, reading an article that I wrote. It was during the times, and I'm sure you remember those times, when all the tourists were gone from all the tourist destinations. And suddenly, the prices of the apartments dropped. They dropped below prices in the surrounding areas of Prague. So I remember people working in the pubs and restaurants here, they would tell me, we actually moved to the city center because it's cheaper to live here than where we live now. Of course, I'm talking about the pandemic where all the Airbnbs were suddenly empty and the owners didn't know what to do. It's fair to say that some of the listings were honest about it and they said, it's only for this price until the situation changes back to normal, whatever normal meant. So should you move here? Well, look, I'll be more than happy if you will. And in all honesty, I'll be more than happy if you come to Prague for more than a day or two and actually discover the parts where most of the people in Prague live. Žižkov, Vinohrady, Nusle, Letná, Davice, Smíchov. Maybe you'll find them interesting. What you will not find in those are the stores and shops that you find down here, and maybe you'll get a more local perspective of what Prague is all about. We make guided videos every week for you here on the Honest Guide channel, and I'll see you next week on another one. Bye-bye. And let me teach you how to say a property or a real estate in Czech if you're going to be looking for one. It's nemovitost. Nemovitost is a property or a real estate.
On March 2nd, Top Esports faced Weibo Gaming in an elimination series during the LPL Split 1 playoffs. Top lost 2-3 and were knocked out. So it could have just been a bad series, but there were some mistakes that were almost too severe to write off as just mistakes. 4 days later, on March the 6th, Top Esports officially reported their own jungler, Yang Naiyu Zhejian, to the LPL disciplinary team. The club suspected him of, quote, seriously violating club rules and regulations and professional ethics, which is just proper speak for match fixing. Now, for this video's research, I have to give credit because a lot of the subject matter was uncovered and documented by Reddit user KRFan2020. So shout out to that guy. If you are KRFan, leave a comment and I'll pin it and I'll send you some RP. Now, Naiyu was a promising rookie who joined Top Esports for the 2026 season and had been viewed as a key piece of the team's rebuilding phase after a disappointing 2025 campaign. But now that all this has happened, it jeopardizes his entire career. So to begin, let's check out the offending clips and contextual footage that sparked all this in the first place to help paint a picture of the suspicious gameplay in question. At just over 5 minutes in, Naiyu is bot to protect his AD carry's shove. But after he eased directly over the Jinx chompers, the play should have been called off, and it results in a brutal Elk cleanup. Now, to be fair, this just looked more like a misplay than straight up inting, but we've got to start somewhere. This could have happened to anyone, I guess.
The Jauchi and Fengyue can safely push out this lane. Fengyue still has flash, but walks into the chompers again, but this time the great handshake pulls Arha in, tries to flash away from Jauchi, but here comes JJ, able to push him back. Death Sentence connects on to Fengyue, now he flashes forward, but Elk is gonna flash after him, picks up the first reset, he's gonna look to run down Jauchi, has the movement speed, one more rocket in the chamber! Elk picks up the double, and Nio cleans it on to Arha, but it's a 3-kill lead.
Such a minor decision there, but Nio starts up the Skarner E and goes right over a Jinx trap. If they have that, that is a kill onto Arha and onto this Thresh, but a massive mistake nonetheless. Turns into a 1,000 gold lead and the first dragon of the game going over to Weibo. I cannot wait to see this replay because we're just gonna have to watch Nio. I am honestly flabbergasted. Watch this Jinx trap. Now a second time that this ability from Elk has guaranteed kills for them. He walks over it, and that right there turns the entire play. Jauchi flashes forward, doesn't get the kill, tries to survive, and once Jinx is excited, that's it. That is the entirety of the game, and honestly might have just decided this series if TES can't do anything more.
Again, this one isn't a brutal offender. It just kind of looks like a miscommunication, but he did show well before 369 was ready for the play to happen, which gave Zika a very precious second to back off. Not only that, there wasn't really a rush. Naiu's ult was back in 6 seconds. But again, not the worst one. But what follows is where it starts to get really questionable, because he subsequently leaves his top laner to get Dove while he goes to fight Red Buff. And yeah, just watch this.
See that get punished?
Still has a flash available, would have to rely on Fengyue. 369 looking top lane against Zika. Nio, no impale available for another 6 seconds, so Zika is just gonna hold on to his flash and just walks out. Here comes JJ looking for the response of his own. I don't know if they can lock him down unless he gets another Dark Procession up and ready.
Can't kill the Maiden. That's very good. Give over a Heartsteel proc. Nio messed that gank up though, because he went out of the brush for just a moment, and that gave Zika the visualization that the Skarner was there. And now we've left 369. He has no ult.
JJ can just tank the turret, already popped the ultimate for good measure to make sure that 369 is run out. And another impale goes wide. No! And the Super Mega Death Rocket from downtown. Elk hits the mark, picks up his 5th kill, and the reset allows him to pressure Jauchi away from the minion wave. Doesn't find the zap, but it's enough damage to keep him pinned. And Nio could be next. No impale, no way out. JJ tanks it up, swags it on out, and collects another tax.
This play was kind of the start and where people really started to take notice. Now the next play happens off screen, but there's a replay, so we'll skip to that. And again, I don't really need to commentate over it because there's a blatant back click that should never have happened and never would have happened if he was actually trying.
Number 5, a few misplays.
Nice combo. Just look at Arha and Elk working hand in hand. Fengyue flashes out of the Super Mega Death Rocket, but a flash forward from Elk. Looks for one more rocket into the reset, and Xiaohu will join the fray just to make sure that Elk has enough reduction of the damage.
You can't really do anything. It is the one way that Thresh can outplay this champion. Great engagement. Again, setting up onto the Flame Chompers. What are you to do at this point? Elk does use the flash, and that is a meaningful summoner spell, but with Nio dying on the other side of this play.
Then, not 3 minutes later, Nio's back at it again with this. I mean, to be fair, they knew Elk's flash was down, but he has cleanse and his support is right there. It's a very desperate and flip play. Not only that, I feel like that play had to be facilitated by layered coordination, like a hostile takeover start. It's evidenced by how far behind the play Fengyu was that there were no comms. And you can't just brute force this kind of play, especially when Weibo has a Galio for extra assurance that they didn't even need.
Smolder, where he just got infinite amount of executes.
Whoa! Oh, but Elk is saved by Arha. Quick use of the Dark Passage repositions him away from what could have been a great impale from Nio.
Chachi, no!
Oh, Chachi went way too deep. He tried to be a hero and ends up going down a victim.
First, imagine a completely ordinary moment in your daily life. You withdraw $100 from your bank's ATM near your home. Your remaining balance is $900. Later, you head downtown and suddenly feel like stopping by a nightclub, so you need more cash. At an ATM from the same bank, using the same account, you try to withdraw another $100. But the screen tells you the withdrawal cannot be completed due to insufficient funds. Confused, you begin looking into what happened. There are no errors. No fees have been charged. Both ATMs belong to the same bank. In fact, up until the very moment you attempt that second withdrawal, the system never contained a definite answer to the question of how much money was actually left in your account. In fact, it's even possible that the act of trying to withdraw the money was part of the scenario from the very beginning. Hello everyone! Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? In our everyday world, it certainly does. But in the quantum world, it's different. Phenomena like this are not only possible, they're actually unavoidable. Because in the microscopic realm, the properties of things do not even need to exist until they're measured, and the outcome is determined only through the act of measurement itself. Welcome to our channel. Now let's begin. Does God not play dice? Unfortunately, he does. If this picture of reality feels unsettling to you, you're not alone in thinking that. In fact, one very famous physicist would almost certainly have agreed with with you. That physicist was Albert Einstein. No, Einstein didn't reject quantum mechanics itself. He clearly understood that quantum mechanics worked. He saw that its equations produced correct results and that experiments consistently confirmed them. The problem was not with the formulas themselves. The problem was how to accept the picture of reality that seemed to lie behind those calculations. Einstein could not accept the idea that a physical object had no definite properties until it's measured. He believed that reality must exist independently, whether or not we choose to observe it. An electron, he argued, must already have a definite spin projection. A particle must have either a precise position or a precise momentum. The system as a whole must be in a clearly defined state. Even if we do not know it and cannot measure it, it still has to.
People have wanted. We paid the highest drug prices anywhere in the world by far, by 5 times, 6 times, 10 times, more than London would be paying in New York,
That's
more
so
than any city in Europe was paying than our cities. We would have a pill that would sell for $10 in Munich, in Germany, would sell for $10, and in New York it would be $130 or whatever. And we worked so hard.
It's live, yes, live.
And we pulled it off. It's called Most Favored Nations. So now we went from by far the most expensive drugs anywhere in the world, prescription drugs, to the least expensive. And I had to get all the nations to agree, and I don't want to bore you with how I did it, but I did it. Everyone said it was impossible to do, including the drug companies. And we did it.
Said it was
we worked so hard on it.
But he did
and we're going to save so much money for the people. Your drug prices are going to be dropping at levels never even by 50, 60, 70, 80% in some cases.
What a shitty tie.
You work so hard, and then you see them stealing $19 billion. It's like in one pocket, out the other. I don't like it. And I think Andrew and JD, I think they have maybe one of the most important jobs.
They do.
Maybe it could be one of the most important things that we're signing because I really believe that they have an opportunity to do something so good for our country. You know, people talk about balancing budgets. You can't balance a budget when people are stealing $19 billion, and nobody's ever heard of anything like it.
Yeah.
We had, I guess, in the same state, you went autism, where 4 or 5 years ago, they spent $1 million, and now it's like almost $400 million in just a few years. Well,
damn, those kids is retarded.
Didn't go up like that, and even the $1 million was probably a fraud. But it went from $1 million to almost $400 million in just a few years. These are crooked people. They basically said everybody in the state had autism. These are crooked, horrible people. And you know, I was elected on with JD, Make America Great Again.
I've heard of that.
And we can't have this stuff happening. Right. We have to be respected. And they left. So I'm going to sign this. We'll take some questions, but let me sign this first before I don't forget. Let's see. Before I decide not to, okay?
Yes, sir.
I don't forget not to, but maybe I'll decide not to. I would decide not to if I didn't think they could do the job. I would decide not to. But that'll be a terrible thing. I think you're going to find numbers.
That right?
I think you're going to find numbers
forget.
that are far higher than you even think. And you know, Andrew came to us. He said, "Sir, he's read the stories about Minnesota. We know California
saw it on Twitter.
Many times worse, but Minnesota's terrible. They're all terrible.
Beautiful.
Those cities are terrible. New York is terrible.
Show his age. He is almost 80.
What's going on in Chicago, Illinois, with that slob of a governor is terrible." And the kind of money we're talking
Fatty?
about
I remember Fatty.
is just country changing. It's country changing money. It's having a deficit to having a really profitable country where you can lower your taxes substantially.
That's his name, just Fatty.
And I think that's
everybody knows who it is.
To do. And I think you two guys are the right guys. If you guys can't do it, got a problem.
Well, they let me. I can do it. I think it'll be easy.
So I'll sign, and then we'll take some nice questions from our wonderful media.
I love how that's a joke. Great, finally.
Okay.
Good one.
Good one.
Here you go.
Fucking stupid idiot,
Very
JD.
important. That's a big deal. We've been working
Drop
on
the
this
pin.
very long. Right?
Yes,
Steve,
sir.
right? Will?
Good, sir.
Andrew, do you have a question?
Yes, Mr. President. You said during your State of the Union that this type of fraud, the corruption, is the type of thing that can shred the fabric of a nation.
He's right.
Why do you suppose then that leaders in recent memory haven't looked at the systemic amount of fraud that's
Because
been
they're
taking
crooked.
place? And
Because they're crooked.
Yeah.
They make money.
It's true. Simple.
They gain power. They use it for power.
Exactly.
Like with the Somalians, they vote in a block.
Yep,
100%.
there it is.
They make a
Racial
deal with the
block
Somalians.
voting.
They all vote because they're on a gravy
Free
train.
money. See, he's been watching the stream.
It's coming. It's money first,
Yep.
power second. A lot of people say power first. No,
I think it's power
money
first, but okay.
Power second. Do you ever see where like Mercedes? People come over from Somalia. They have no money, and now they're buying Mercedes-Benz cars. Okay, it's more cash goes out of the Minnesota airport than any other place in the world.
Why is that? Where's it
We're
going?
going to find it. And Minnesota's really bad. The governor's corrupt. The attorney general is totally corrupt. Just like the New York State attorney general, Letitia James. She's a highly
She's that
corrupt
bitch trying to
person.
sue Valve.
Bragg, the DA, is a corrupt person. They're all corrupt. These
Yeah.
are corrupt people.
I got to take a piss.
And we got too many of them in our country. And we have to expose them, and we have to catch them. And if these two guys can't, these are high IQ people. I've always liked high IQ. These are high IQ people. If they don't do it, we're going to go a long way, fellas, to find somebody else that's going to. We have no choice. If honestly, and they may not do a good job. If they don't do a good job,
Thank you, sir.
no, it's possible. If they don't do a good job, the country's sort of in trouble. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. 2 questions for the
And I think they're going to do a great job. Go ahead.
First, Mr. Vice President, Democrats are already calling you the fraud czar. What's your reaction to that title? And then second, given
I like
your past skepticism of foreign adventurism, are you completely on board with the current war in Iran?
So I like fraud czar. It's certainly what we're going to do. And look, we have to do it. As the president said, this is a problem that has festered in this country for far too long, and far too few people have actually wanted to do anything about it. That's what makes this administration different, is that we actually tackle the problems the American people have been confronting. So I'm very happy about it. And look, I think that I know what you're trying to do, Phil. You're trying to drive a wedge between members of the administration, between me and the president.
Did he say the N-word?
The president said consistently, going back to 2015, and I agreed with him, is that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon.
Oh, yeah.
We have taken this military action under the president's leadership. I think all of us, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, should pray for success and pray for the safety of our troops. That's the approach that I've taken. Make it as successful as possible.
So there's no hesitation, given your past statements, with the current operation?
What do you mean there's no hesitation with my past statements?
Given your skepticism of foreign adventurism, you were a critic of the global war on
He's
terror.
trying to play games on him.
Well, I think one big difference, Phil, is that we have a smart president, whereas in the past we've had dumb presidents. And I trust President Trump to get the job done, to do a good job for the American people, and to make sure that the mistakes of the past aren't repeated. Absolutely.
Thanks, sir.
Look, JD's been great. But here's the simple thing, and I have, some people, I don't want wars. I want wars less than almost anybody.
Oh, wow.
Peace through
That's
strength.
good.
But you know what? I've watched Iran for a long time. I've called them out 20 years ago when I was a civilian that liked watching the world.
He saw the
And they're
tweets.
violent, vicious people. The leadership, violent, vicious people. They killed 32,000 protesters over the last 3 weeks.
That's it?
They put out a memo 2 days ago saying, if you protest, we will shoot you and kill you in the
And
streets.
your kids. Yep.
And somebody said, oh, there's not that many protests. Well, first of all, there are bombs going off all over the
Why
place.
aren't there protests?
Even if there weren't, who's going to do that? Who's going to do it? They don't have any guns, and the other ones have latest in line machine gun, right? And
true.
Every form of gun you can have. They shoot them right through the middle of the head. They're violent people. If they had a nuclear weapon, they would use it. And sometimes I'll have some of the people that, feel very strongly, like I do about wars.
Yeah.
And I say, do you think Iran is violent, and do you think their people are violent? Yes, leadership.
Yeah.
Do you think they should have a nuclear weapon?
No.
Which is massive power. I don't even want to discuss how powerful, because it's depressing. And they said, no, they shouldn't have. definitely they shouldn't. I said, and you don't want to fight war? No, we don't want to fight war. So
then you
these are
want to have
naive
it.
people that frankly are stupid.
Yes. Yes.
If you believe that Iran should have a nuclear weapon, there's something wrong with you, because they would use it within, the only question is within 1 hour if they get it, or 1 day. They will use it, and they will blow up the entire Middle East, not just Israel. They'll start with Israel, but they will blow up. And you got to see that when they unexpectedly started sending missiles to every country within 1,000 miles of them. I mean, they're blowing up countries that were neighbors, not necessarily some friends. They actually were blowing up some friends. They were blowing up the people that handle their accounts.
Big mistake.
They're sending thousands of missiles into countries that didn't expect to be in the war.
Yep.
Because they wanted to take over the Middle East. And if I didn't terminate Barack Hussein Obama's horrible Iran nuclear deal, which I did in my first term, one of the dumbest deals, perhaps the dumbest deal, because of the danger involved, you would have had them have a nuclear weapon 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. They would have used it, blown up the Middle East, and they would have then come after us. And if these gorgeous B-2 bombers, give me that bomber, Andrews. Let me just hug that little sucker. Give me that bomber over there. Thank you. You knew immediately which one. This looks small, but in person it's very big. Because it's the only plane capable of carrying a 200,000-pound bomb. So I don't know how they do it, because it's very sleek and nice, but it carries a lot of weapons and there's a lot of bombs. But had I not sent this incredible machine times numerous others to hit Iran at midnight with no moon, dead dark, every single bomb was dropped right down the chute that it was supposed to hit. How they do it, who knows? Nobody else can figure. No other country can do it. No other country has our military or even close. And I think we've probably proven that with Venezuela and now with because we have done a number on Iran. But if I didn't do that, if I didn't decimate, I call it their nuclear dust, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 1 month after that bombing took place.
It's pretty bad.
And they would have used it on first Israel and then the Middle East. And you know that because all of those missiles that were launched against their neighbors were set long ago, long before they knew they would be using them this quickly. Had we not done this, you would have had a nuclear war that would have evolved into World War III. And more important, this is a war that there would have been nothing left. So we've done a great thing. The people that say it's okay for a very sick ideology, a very sick country in terms of its leadership, very good people, great people. But the people that say that, I think they're actually, they're either
retarded.
evil or
Say
they're
retarded.
stupid.
Say retarded.
So if you believe that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon, they should not have it, then you have to absolutely love what I've done, because in 2 weeks we have decimated them. They have no Navy, they have no Air Force, they have no anti-aircraft weapons, they have no leadership. The leadership is gone. But then they set up a new leadership to go and name a new leader, and that leadership is gone. And now they think
almost said he's dead.
Maybe the sun is gone. They're all gone. My biggest problem is I have no idea who we're talking to, because nobody ever heard of any of these people. They're all dead. But we did a job for the world, not a job for us, for the whole world. We took
Cardboard?
the worst country in 50 years and maybe longer from the ideological standpoint, a country that wanted to blow up the world, a country that is sick, and it has a religious fervor. And when you add religion, you know, people don't realize more people died in religious wars than every other war put together. And that's what you would have had here. And it was a terrible
Donald
thing.
with the fedora
I'm very
tag.
proud of what we did. And I think JD understands better than most. If you give Iran a nuclear weapon, at least a very substantial part of the world would be blown up. And it'll be used almost immediately, yes.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You don't mind if I keep this here, do you? Isn't that a beautiful thing? You know, I used to look at it, and I said, it's a piece of art, but how can it be effective?
Yeah.
It's so stealth. Think of it, Peter. 1 in the morning, it flies in, and they say, "Sir, they're in Iranian airspace." And I say, "Oh," and I'm watching it from the Situation Room with a couple of other very smart people, including some good generals, real generals, not television generals.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you see that dive. They start diving, and you see him. 30,000, 20,000. Boy, I said, that was a lot. They went down fast to aim it. And they know they're coming, and they're smart, and they never saw them. And they're firing a little bit, but they don't know what they're firing at because they can't see a thing. And then you hear the biggest explosions that anybody's ever heard. Those are the biggest bombs.
Yeah.
Outside of nuclear, those are the biggest bombs. And you say, what technology we have. What a great country.
What technology.
I built it, largely, I built it during my first term. I built it. I didn't know I'd have to use it this much in my second term. But we had an incompetent president. We had an incompetent administration. And if that group of people, in any form, whether it's Kamala, him, it doesn't matter, would have had another 4 years, we would have had no country left. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. You say you're doing a job for the rest of the world. In your conversations with your counterparts, are they thanking you? What are their conversations like when you talk about this?
Yeah, they should be. Should be saying thank you.
Well, they should be thanking me. Because many of them get 90%. China, as an example, should be thanking us, but I don't expect to thank you, but they should be thanking us. Japan gets 95%, China 91%. Many of the countries, South Korea gets a tremendous percentage of their oil and therefore their energy from the Straits, or as they call it, the Strait. And they should be not only thanking us, they should be helping us. What does surprise me is that they're not eager to help. There are a couple. We'll be announcing some names soon. There are some that really were right up front. I would announce their name now, other than maybe they'd prefer it not being announced for whatever reason. I will say this: it's a lot easier to get people today than it was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, before we destroyed before we obliterated the country, before we took out, because they're down to about 8% of their missiles. They're down to a small portion of their drones.
Is that thing?
Demolished many of their factories where they make the missiles and the drones, and the rest are all following. Our military has been amazing. We hit Carg Island, took out every single thing on Carg Island except one thing. We left the pipes, because if we take out the pipes, it takes a long time to build them. And at some point, something's going to happen that's positive with respect to those pipes.
We'll see.
But there are some countries that greatly disappointed me. And I'm the one that got them to pay from 2% to 5% of GDP, NATO. And I get along great with those countries in NATO, but I always said, the problem with NATO is we'll always be there for them, but they'll never be there for us. And when I hear the UK, which was sort of considered the Rolls-Royce of allies, right? When you say they were the oldest, and they were going to be there. And I say it would be really helpful if you'd send over a couple of ships, and if you have some minesweepers, which they do, be very helpful. And the Prime Minister is a nice man. I think he's a very nice guy. He says, well, I'd like to ask my team. I said, you don't have to worry about a team. You don't have a team. You're the Prime Minister. You can make a decision. Well, I have to speak to my people. I said, you don't have to speak to anybody.
Just tell me.
So it was very disappointing. And then after we obliterated them, and destroyed their military, the whole thing,
they need to capture Starmer,
a much safer zone.
Like Maduro,
He said, we're going to send over 2 aircraft carriers. I said, I don't want them anymore. I don't want them after we win. I want them before we start. I don't need your aircraft carriers after we've already won. So, those things are very disappointing. And you have to remember, we have 45,000 troops in Japan. We have 45,000 troops in South Korea. We have 45,000, 50,000 troops in Germany. We defend all these countries. And then, do you have any minesweepers? And they say, well, would it be possible for us not to get involved? I've been saying it for a long time. This is the greatest thing to come out of this. We spend trillions and trillions of dollars on NATO to defend other countries. And I always said, but if it ever comes time to defend us, they're not going to be there.
True.
Many of them would not be there. And we're going to have to start thinking more wisely in this country. Some have been very good. One or two have been great. I'll tell you who the great ones are at the right time. But there have been some that were right up there, Peter. They were right up there. They wanted to do it so much. Go ahead, Peter.
Thank you. You were talking about Iran a couple times today and what they did after Epic Fury began. You said they hit Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait. Nobody expected that. We were shocked. Are you surprised that nobody briefed you ahead of time that that might be their retaliation?
Nobody. No, the greatest experts, nobody thought they were going to hit. They were, I wouldn't say friendly countries. They were like neutral. They lived with them for years. Peter, they were going to take over the Middle East. They were going to knock out Israel with their nuclear weapon. But after we knocked out their nuclear potential weapon, they started building missiles, thousands and thousands of missiles. And they were going to do it with missiles while they developed. These are sick people. While they developed nuclear, somehow they were going to start at a different site, because that site was, you saw the site, the mountain. They were going to go into a certain area, which we know exactly where it is, and they were going to do that. And it's incredible what we've done. I tell you, the job we've done.
Wow.
You know, if I didn't terminate Barack Hussein Obama's Iran nuclear deal,
he said it again.
You would right now, well, Israel would be gone. It would be incinerated. And probably the Middle East likewise. And remember, they have all of those missiles. And I heard they were sending missiles to UAE. I said, that's strange. You know, UAE is like the banker for Iran. They're like the banker. Qatar, their neighbors, they got along okay. Saudi Arabia. All of a sudden, Kuwait is getting hit. Bahrain is getting all these countries are getting hit.
Why?
There was no expert that would say that was going to happen. It's not a question of like, gee, should you have known? And if we did know, big deal. I mean, we have to do what we have to do. But we hit them so hard like nobody's ever been hit. We hit them very hard. And we've extinguished most of their missiles. We've extinguished most of their drones. We've extinguished most of the places where the missiles and the drones are built. We've fully extinguished 2 layers of leadership and probably a third, if you believe some stories. So we only have one thing. They have a little choke point, and they've used it very well for years, but it doesn't work. But I think this, if some of these countries that we've been good to for years, and maybe more important than that, some of these countries that get 90% and 95% of their energy from Hormuz.
True.
Strait. Hormuz, a famous, wonderful, beautiful place, but you wouldn't want to be necessarily sailing a boat there right now.
I would not.
Okay, you know why? Not because of them, because of us. Because we've taken out their entire navy. We've taken out every one of their drone. They call it a drone layer, a mine layer. There's specific boats that are meant to put mines on. How would you like to have a nation that has 22 boats where their sole function, they're very different looking boats. You wouldn't want one for your family. They're not pretty. Their sole function is to lift a mine into the water and drop it a certain number of feet down.
That's all they do.
But they had 22 of them. We've taken out all of them. But you can probably drop them off other boats. So we don't even know. By the way, we don't know that any mines have even been dropped. But the thought that they would scares people that have billion-dollar ships.
Boats, yeah.
Yeah.
It's an expensive boat.
Thank you, President Trump. I'd like to ask the Vice President about his plans to go after possible fraud in California and New York. Of course, about Minnesota. President Trump, first could I ask you, you said earlier today that the new Supreme Leader, Borov9, maybe you don't know if he's dead or alive. There are a couple interesting reports about him today. There's one report that he just narrowly escaped death in the first air
gay. Talk about him being gay.
There's another report that he may actually be gay despite leading a theocracy that hangs gay people. How do you determine what's true, and do you have an assessment of this?
Is he
well, so far
gay?
Nobody knows. If you look at his father, he used to give talks a lot, you know, talking
is he gay
about
or
death
not?
to America. He'd say death to America all the
He
time.
would.
When they say death to America,
that.
you should believe them. because that's what they would have. If they had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it. But they never had the chance. I never gave them the chance to use it. And other presidents should have done. I spoke to one of the former presidents who I actually like. I actually speak to some. I do like some people. It'd be shocking. And he said, I wish I did what you did.
Bill?
Could have done it. Other presidents, somebody should have done it. 47 years this went on. They call Iran the bully of the Middle East. And you could have never had the Abraham Accords. You could never have had peace in the Middle East. Now you're going to have peace. You could never do it with the dark cloud of a nuclear
The Ayatollah? The gay
But Iran is a shell of itself. It's no
Ayatollah.
longer a bully. It's the one that gets bullied. It's a bully that got beat up. We beat the crap out of them.
Damn.
And they deserve that.
Fuck 'em.
You know, when you see a soldier walking down the street without his arms or being helped down the
Who
street
paid
because
for
he's
that
got no
bomb?
legs,
That's right.
or his face is blown to smithereens
Yeah,
with no
who
legs
paid
and
for
no
the
arms,
bomb?
those two, no legs, no arms,
Ayatollah.
and a face that got racked. That was done by roadside bombs. That's the favorite weapon of Soleimani, who I killed
Oh, yeah.
in my first administration.
They blew up the boat.
General Soleimani. Had I not killed him, that was the beginning of their downfall, because had he
beginning
not
of the
gone,
end.
it's possible that we would not be this far advanced in destroying Iran, because he was a really good general. He was a vicious, horrible man, but he was a brilliant general.
Yeah.
And he was looking to
Yeah.
knock out 5 of our military bases at one time.
What
and
an
the man
asshole.
that died with him
What a dickhead.
was the same, his counterpart in Iraq. And they were working together. And they got hit real hard.
Uh-huh.
And if that didn't happen, we would have had a problem. But maybe more importantly than that, he was really the mastermind behind it. And they never found somebody to replace him in terms of the genius. I knocked him out. And that was a big step, knocking him out. But if we didn't get rid of the Obama deal, I terminated it against the wishes of my then Secretary of State. He was no Marco. Against the wishes
He
of
was no Marco.
a lot of people at the time. You remember that, Peter? A lot of people. Had I not terminated, remember that, Stephen? You remember? They were all going, no, this is not. That deal was a disaster. That was a road to a nuclear weapon. They would have had it 3 years ago. And it would have been used, I would say, 2 to 3 years ago.
Maybe.
And it would have been used in the Middle East. And by the way,
Why
after
were
they
you
were
the best
finished
president?
they were coming over here.
Yeah.
They never got a chance to do it.
I just want to ask you about something very interesting.
Why were you
that
right
said
about
twice
everything?
today, that you talked to another former president
Yeah, I
about
did.
the Iran strikes.
I did.
Was it George W. Bush?
No,
Was it Bill Clinton?
I don't want to say. I don't want to say. Because
Barack Obama?
a member of a party, they have Trump derangement syndrome.
Oh my
It's somebody
God.
that happens to like me, and I like
It was Bill Clinton.
that person who's a smart person. But that person said,
Oh my God, it was.
I wish I did it.
I mean, maybe it was Obama.
But I don't want to get into I don't want to get him
Maybe.
into trouble. Maybe, hey,
That would be
you know
funny
what?
if it was Obama.
I think you probably know. You know, it's interesting.
I think you
And
probably
maybe he'd
know.
be proud. And I could even ask him that. Would you like me to reveal your name to Peter at Fox? Well, at least you have high ratings. Your ratings are through the roof, Peter.
If it was Obama, that'd be funny.
Congratulations.
Can I ask you another question about the war? If Iran, as you say, totally obliterated, got the missiles, got the first 2 rounds of leadership, Air Force gone, Navy gone, can we wrap this war up this week?
This week?
Yeah, sure. Good.
Will we?
Wait,
I
he
don't
just
think so,
says,
but
yeah,
it'll be
sure,
so.
we can
Won't be
wrap the
long.
war up this week.
And we're going to have a much safer world when it's
Just out of
wrapped up.
nowhere.
It'll be wrapped
Yeah,
up
sure.
soon.
Sure,
We're going to
war
have a
could be
much
over this
safer
week,
world.
yeah.
I had an obligation to
Yeah.
do this. I didn't want to, I call it an excursion. I didn't want to make this journey. We had the highest stock market in history. We had low gas prices. Everything was good.
Yeah, I mean,
And
get
I
it
know
done
exactly.
before
I know
Crimson
what-
Desert. Yeah,
You're going
true.
to do it, and people are going to raise the price of oil.
I think it was Obama.
But
Maybe.
I know that. But that's a very small
Obama
thing
knew a lot
compared to
about bombing.
allowing them to have. You want
He
to
did
see
that
the
a
stock
lot.
market go down? Start letting them hit you with nukes.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I said it this morning. I think it's a very small price to pay. And frankly, I thought it was going to go down much more. if you want to know the truth. I assumed that it was going to go down much more, only because people don't understand to a large, it's a big chess game at a very high level. It's a very high level chess, the highest. And I'm dealing with very smart players. These are smart people. They don't get there. You know, when you deal with some of these people, you're dealing with high level intellect, very high IQ people. These are not Jasmine Crockett and her group. These are smart people. These are really smart people, and violent people, and vicious people, and some very nice people. And some are very nice but violent. They turn violent. But you know what? If I didn't do what I did, we would have been hit. Number one, very important, was the termination of Obama's horrible deal, and number two, this beautiful plane hitting them 8 months ago, whatever it was, and taking out their nuclear capacity. That totally threw them for a loop. If they had that bomb at either time, 5 years ago or 7 months ago, if they had that bomb would have been used almost immediately.
Mr. President, two questions on domestic policy, bringing it close to home. First of all, the Save America Act, what are you expecting this week when this vote takes place in the U.S. Senate? Will the Vice President's vote be necessary?
I think it's imperative that it gets done. I'm not sure it is. You know, the Democrats have horrible policy. It's just incredible. But they stick together. It's the one thing they do.
They do.
Their Supreme Court members stick together. Those appointed by a Democrat stick together. If Barack Hussein Obama appoints a member of the Supreme Court, that member never goes against him. And they're proud about it. They say, I don't give a damn if it's good or bad. That man appointed me, and I'm never going to let him down. I don't say that's right, wrong. I just say they stick together. Republicans go the opposite way. If Donald Trump appointed me, I'm going to show the world that I can be totally just and I can be independent of Donald Trump.
He's making fun of
He's not controlling me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to control them. I just want to have smart decisions. They gave us a decision on tariffs the other day that won't change tariffs.
We got
I can
Clarence
do it a different
Thomas.
way. I always knew I could do it a different way. This was a little quicker, a little easier, a little
more
better.
of him.
But they gave it a decision that could cost this country $500 billion to pay people back, because now I have to start the tariffs all over again. Very simple. And what happens with the money I've already collected?
Yeah.
Why didn't they say, starting from now, go the other way? $500 billion, perhaps. It's so sad. But one thing about the Democrats, they stick together.
They're
like
coordinated.
Glue. They impeached me twice for absolutely no reason, unanimously. Fortunately, the Republicans stuck together, and it was something. It was pretty wild. But the Democrats have horrible policy, transgender for everybody, open borders, men playing in women's sports.
Not a good one.
But the one thing they do have is they stick together, no matter how bad the policy. It's embarrassing to watch them try to defend it. And in a way, I say, as a Republican, in a way, I say, thank goodness they have bad policy, because you'd never beat them.
It's easy to run against them.
We have something in there now, the Save America Act. Voter ID with a picture, right? That's a 99% issue.
Who the fuck
Even among
doesn't want
Democrats,
that?
you know, Democrats call it 89%.
Who the fuck doesn't want that?
And then they
Jesus.
have proof of citizenship. And then they have no mail-in ballots. No mail-in ballots. We have no mail-in. You go to California, they send out like 38 million ballots.
Yeah.
Some Democrats get 7, 8 ballots. Republicans are a lot of times calling in, where's my ballot? Where's my ballot? They're lucky to get one. Jimmy Carter, probably the greatest thing he ever did. I thought he was a nice man, not a great president, to put it mildly.
Yeah,
How did his
kind of a
attack
retard,
work out in Iran? Not too good. I think ours is slightly better, wouldn't you say? But Jimmy Carter, the one thing he did after he left with Scoop Jackson and some others, they formed a very elite council.
Get rid of mail-in votes.
Committee that came out and said very strongly, no mail-in ballots, because
who the hell does not
we're
have
the
ID?
only country in the world that has
according to
mail-in
Democrats,
ballots like
black
we do.
people
The only country in the
Black
whole world.
people can't get
tried
IDs.
it. France tried it and they went away.
They don't know where the DMV is.
They're now doing paper ballots, watermark paper, which
can't, or
cheat.
if they can't afford computers.
When you look at what happens with this country, we really have to fix it. That'll be very popular. The other thing we put in there, just as best of, I call it the best of Trump. We have the three things I
call it
just
the
said,
best of Trump.
Right? But then I added on no men playing in women's sports, and I added in no transgender surgery, the mutilation of our children.
Who would do this?
We have no mutilation of our children.
Who would do this?
No transgender. I think they say that's an 80% issue. I think they're 99% issues, but whether they're 80% or 99%. The problem is we have a couple of Republicans. They shouldn't be allowed.
They shouldn't be allowed
people.
to,
And they're willing to vote against anything. And we have all the Democrats who vote against it. So I think it hurts the Democrats to vote against it because I'm going to instruct all the Republicans to say that
what was the question?
So-and-so
by
that
the way?
they're running against voted against the saving of our children from transgender mutilation, right? That's
What was
pretty
the
unpopular.
question?
They want men and women's sports. That's pretty
Who the
unpopular.
hell knows?
They want voter ID, but the Democrats don't.
The SAVE Act,
Everybody
that's right.
wants voter ID. Everybody wants proof of citizenship.
Is this the SAVE Act
and
right
most
here?
people don't want mail-in voting because they know it's a fraud. Touches too many hands. I mean, the postman gets it, this one gets it, that one.
Yeah.
So these are all issues that are in the 90s to 100. I would say some are virtually 100%. And the interesting thing is they're that way not only with the Republicans. I'm not talking about leadership. I'm talking about
just a minute.
They're that way also, most importantly, with the people. The people of our country want voter ID. The people of our country want proof of citizenship. And that includes 88%, 89% of Democrats. And I think the Republicans, Eric Schmidt, Rick Scott, Tim Scott, I speak to so many of them, they all want it. I hope John Thune can get it across the line. He's trying. I mean, he told me this morning, I spoke to him, he's trying. I think it'll be a very, very bad thing for our country if they don't. We're just asking for basic things. Think of it. You can't have voter ID. Do you know in California, if you ask a person to show their identification, they have the right to put you in jail. If you're an official and you say, may I please see your identification, you're subject to going to jail. That's how crazy it's gotten. With a low IQ person, you know, because Gavin Newsom has admitted that he has learning disabilities. What? Honestly, I'm all for people with learning disabilities, but not for my president. I think a president should not have learning disabilities, okay?
Talk about Gavin?
And I know it's highly controversial to say such a horrible thing. President of the United States, Gavin Newsom, admitted that he has learning disabilities, dyslexia.
He's
everything about him is dumb. But then he looked at the audience and said, "But I'm smarter than you," or something like that. That was pretty stupid.
Oh,
so now on top of everything else, I call him a racist because it happened to be a black audience. I will tell you this. I think it was the worst interview I've ever seen of any human being in my life, okay? Anybody else have any questions?
Anybody else have any questions?
Will it be necessary to use even a limited ground force to secure whatever nuclear material remains in Iran is part of that threat?
He's not going to say.
And secondly, have you made a decision?
You mean to go in and get it?
He's not going to say.
Why would I tell you a thing like that?
Yeah.
And secondly,
you know, I can't say to reporters, sir, will you attack Carg Island? Will you occupy Carg? They ask me these questions. Yeah. And I don't want to be mean, but they're stupid questions. If any president answered those questions, they shouldn't be president.
Yeah.
And secondly, sir, do you still plan to travel to Beijing at the end of this?
I don't know. We're working on that right now. We're speaking to China. I'd love to. But because of the war, I want to be here.
Can they take me with them? Can I go to China? I want to go to China.
So we've requested that we delay it a month or so.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to being with them. We have a very good relationship.
Yeah, can they pick me up?
Because of the war. There's no tricks to it either. It's not like, oh, gee, I'm waiting. It's very simple. We got a war going on. I think it's important that I be here.
Just go?
So
maybe I should.
It could be that we delay it a little bit. Not much. Peter?
When you say Cuba is next,
Cuba.
Is Cuba, whatever you do with the military there, it seems like something. Will that look more like Iran or Venezuela?
Probably
Can't
Venezuela.
tell you that. I can tell you that they're talking to us. It's a failed nation.
I can't tell you that.
They have no money. They have no oil. They have no.
Their
nothing.
power, like their shit's
nice
out.
Land.
Yeah.
They have nice landscape. You know, it's a beautiful island. I think they have great people. You know, I know so many people from Cuba that were treated terribly, and they're over here and they became rich.
Yeah.
They're very entrepreneurial people, very smart. I know a lot from Florida, especially. There's so many people. A friend of mine started over with nothing. He's now the largest owner of gas stations in the country and stuff. I mean, Cuban. I also know I was just with a fantastic person.
Marco Rubio's going to run Cuba? Yeah, of course.
In sugar.
Duh.
The Van Hool family, right?
Who else?
And this family wants to go back to Cuba to visit it. They haven't been back in like 50 years or something. They largely come from Cuba. And we'll see what happens. They were asking me about that. They want to go back. Not only Van Hool, a lot of Cubans have said, oh boy, would they love to go back. I think Cuba, I don't know
if I want to go to Cuba.
You know, tourism and everything else. It's a beautiful island. Great weather. They're not in a hurricane zone, which is nice for a change, you know.
Yeah.
They won't be asking us for money for hurricanes every week.
I would.
But I think Cuba's the end. You know, all my life I've been hearing about the United States and Cuba. When will the United States do it? I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking
Making
Cuba.
them the 51st state.
That's a big honor.
I believe I'll have the honor of taking Cuba.
I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth? They're a very weakened nation right now. They were for a long time. Very violent leaders. Castro was a very violent leader. His brothers were a very violent leader. Extremely violent. That's how they governed. They governed with violence. But a lot of people would like to go back. Okay, one more question.
Quick question on fraud for Vice President Vance.
Yeah.
Mr. Vice President, you announced a couple of weeks ago in the EOB that the administration would be halting Medicaid payments to Minnesota until the state decided to take pervasive steps to prevent fraud. Do you have an update to that specific situation? Do you think that could be a model moving forward for the
Cut off the
task force
fraud.
for states that won't cooperate?
Where's all the women? Yeah, by the way, there's no women there either at all. I just noticed that.
So to try to figure that situation out.
No wonder this press
I think there are
conference has
two
been so
obvious
good.
tools that we have to stop the fraud
I didn't
that's
even
happening
notice.
against the American people. One is that when we see evidence of fraud, we stop the payments. Pretty simple, right? We know that the American people are being defrauded. Let's try to stop the payments and ensure that whoever's making these payments is actually complying with some basic due diligence and making sure the payments are going to the right place. I think the second tool, of course, we have, as the president mentioned, is we have law enforcement options. We know that some of this fraud is just bad. Some of it's criminal. We know that people are intentionally trying to defraud the American people. It's not just in Minnesota, it's all across the country.
99% is criminal.
Yes, sir. So this is one of the reasons why DOJ is such an important part of this, is because we have to make sure that where we see criminal conduct, we actually prosecute it. And the president's talked about this a lot in the past. I don't need to repeat it, but it's worth noting that so many times when we find people engaged in really, really bad conduct, the local judge or the local grand jury tries to stop it. One of the cool things about what we're doing is we're trying to take some innovative steps to ensure that when we find criminal fraud, we can actually prosecute it all the way to the end.
Mr. President,
She wanted one question. She's over here.
Oh, no.
And you guys are over there. Where's your main camera? Is it this one? Which one is the main camera?
There's one. Oh, all right. Fun's over, guys.
Mr. President, Mary Barrett with Daily Wire, not CNN. We just wanted to ask about DHS, still not funded, but we reported earlier today that 80% of the primary task force that focuses on investigating terrorism is working without pay. So should that impact Democrats' decision to
The
fund
Democrats aren't paying. The Democrats, we have a deal. They just said we're not going to pay. We're not going to do anything. And
not the CNN.
The Democrats are terrible. You know, it'd be nice to get along, but For years this has been going on, not just with me. For years it's been going on. Different ideology, but also different tactics. Here we are, we're fighting big battles with a very tough enemy and winning nicely.
No, she's all right.
We're not allowed to have security in our country. It's crazy.
Not so
the
bad.
Democrats don't want to pay. These are bad people. These are not people that love our country, I can tell you that.
No,
Very sick
they love
people.
their country.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Brad.
Ma'am. That was a good one. I'm gonna be honest, like that was a pretty good one. I like that one. What do y'all think about that? That was good. Yeah, bro. Like, he let him know.